all my knitterly friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Sticka mitt hjärta, knit my heart. My name is Majvor and I am filming from my home in Vasa, or outside of Vasa in Western Finland. Today is Good Friday, the 10th of April, yes. It's a beautiful spring day here in Finland. It's still a bit brown and not too much, we don't have flowers and stuff, but things are definitely going very fast towards spring now. And all is well with us here in our corona confinement, but we are all healthy and well. The kids have been home from school for about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks now, but fortunately they are really independent and diligent about their schoolwork. I don't really have to get involved very much in that, so they are doing really well. And I have been working away at home, from home, as usual, so not much has really changed, although we are in lockdown pretty much. So hope you all are also well and that you're not finding the situation too stressful. Let's just take care of each other, follow the directions, and yeah, this will pass. I should really be doing this more often because I feel that I am just drowning in projects at the moment to show you. And if you followed me on Instagram, where I am Sticka mitt hjärta, and on Ravelry, where I am Maitessa, and then you will have seen that I had a post recently about my bout of startitis, which means that you can't stop casting on new things. You just keep you just get inspired and you get more inspired and you just it just happens and your projects just pile up and there is no end to the inspiration coming from every direction. So I have a lot going on at the moment, but I will try to keep it fairly brief anyway, not least because it's such a beautiful day and I really want to go out and do some gardening. It's really, my fingers are sizzling with wanting to get to start clearing up my borders and planting stuff in the greenhouse, and so this is the perfect time, really. But I also wanted to chat to you, so let's get that done first. What am I wearing today? Today I am wearing something to melt very nicely into the background, don't you think? This is the pink pullover. It is from this book, Custom Knits, which I have mentioned before, by Wendy Bernard. And it's the pattern which is called Pink. It's a cotton pullover. I knit it about a year ago, I think this time last year or something. And it's the yarn, or the majority of the yarn. Let's just stand up quickly. It's fairly cropped. And it has my standard, just a little bit too short sleeves. Now I was actually running out of yarn, so let's blame that. And the yarn is this. I actually found the label. Let's see now. Palma by Scholler and Stahl, 100% mercerized cotton. A deep stash yarn that I had for a really long time and that I had actually made something else out of, which I never finished and which I didn't like. And then I decided, now I'm just gonna make something out of this, finish it, and never look at this yarn again. So the sort of the pink, the lighter pink is that the Palma yarn, and then the stripes here I think are Catania, which I just bought for effect. But it is quite a nice sort of fairly loose and comfy pullover to wear. Knitting in cotton isn't, I suppose, really anybody's. I've got stuff sticking to my lip gloss. Isn't really anybody's favorite, I guess. And the fact that I had also ripped this yarn before didn't make it any easier to knit with, because it's quite a loosely plied, so it really splits quite easily. So I was happy to have finished it, and to just be able to have finished the garment and the yarn. So yeah, that's it. Now let's see what's off the needles. Now, because I've had this startitis going on, I haven't actually finished that much. I have more stuff that I've started than that I've finished. But I will show you the things that I have. I won't go into very much detail about these, because I talked about them last time, and all of the specs are on my Ravelry page as well. But these are the socks number 14 from the Casting Balke book. Stitch und Stine, or Stine und Stitch is her name on Instagram. They are finished, and I do think that they are really, really nice. I like the colors that go together. I especially like this turquoise, which I think sort of somehow brightens the whole combination. And I think I talked about last time the heel, this yarn that I've used for the heel. Oh, how can I get this now? I don't know if this shows at all, but I was thinking about how I could reinforce the heel, because the yarn was quite thin, and it was also recycled from another project. So what I did was I bought a skein of lace yarn. I think it's a merino silk blend by Findley Yarn, Findley Farm. Yeah, something like that. It's on my Ravelry page, and I held one strand of that together with this opal sock yarn, and that makes a really nice and sturdy and squishy heel. So I'm quite happy with that. And they don't have a lot of ease. I mean, they have negative ease basically, especially around here. But for my feet, that's good, because I have a real I have small and narrow and quite slim feet. So this type of heel that's not very high around the instep fits me really well. But if you have a higher instep, this type of heel might be too small for you. So then you might want to consider doing a heel flap or something, or some type of gusset instead. But for me, these are perfect, and they are finished, and they are very nice. And then I have something else that I hadn't even started the last time, so you haven't seen this before. And this was one of those projects that I really just got inspired. I started and I couldn't stop. I just kept going. So I finished this really, really, really quickly. Now this is a shawl. It's long. It just goes on and on and on. It is the Chamomile Dreams shawl by Susanna Winter, or Talvinitz is her name is her designer name. A Finnish designer. She has lots of nice stuff. go check her out. She has lots of nice shawls. She has some sweaters and tunics and stuff, and real well written patterns, all in English. Really nice stuff. And this is the sort of chamomile pattern, or the borders, which are at the end, or the end of the knitting, and have this. So you start from here, and then you have these kind of interspersed lace panels, and then you have finishes like that. Now, the yarn here is Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock, which I have used before. I bought these on sale when I was in Tampere last year, and the sort of gold is called Biscuit, and this one is called Smitten, I think. Now it's funny when you buy these yarns and you think, oh, this looks so beautiful on the skein. I'm thinking about this one here, and then when you knit it up, it becomes tutti frutti. And I somehow I didn't expect that. I mean, I should have seen it coming, but it was a bit like, ooh, do I really like this? I think I was expecting a somewhat more, I don't know, perhaps a little more elegant and not quite as colorful and speckled effect as this is. But hey, life's too short to have regrets about that sort of thing. It is still, it's speckled, it's tutti frutti, it's a lovely yarn to work with and a lovely yarn to wear. Now I do feel, I haven't finished the end. I have blocked it, but I haven't woven in the ends. Now, I haven't quite figured out how to wear this. These really long shawls, since I'm a petite person, I'm not quite sure, because you want this to show, obviously, but what do you do with all this, with this long end that just goes on and on? So I'll have to work a bit on that. No, that doesn't look too good. Yeah, I will need to practice a bit. And I also realize this is that I probably prefer knitting shawls that aren't super long and sort of really elongated, because you know I don't quite know what to do with all that long stuff, that long fabric. But hey, yeah, this was a process knit. Because it reminded me of why I really love knitting lace. And so I do want to cast on another shawl quite soon, and yeah, see. But probably one that's either more triangular or even rectangular. So we'll see. But this one is off the needles, just needs a bit of weaving in, and then I will have to figure out how to use it. Okay, I think that's all that I've finished actually. Now, what's on the needles? Now, with all my ongoing projects, a few of them that I have shown you before, I'm just gonna sort of flash pretty much like this and not talk about them in any detail. The details will be pretty much, or are pretty much on my Ravelry page if you need to want to know about the yarn or the needles or anything like that. And I hope that maybe next time they will be finished and I can demonstrate the finished garments. So I'll just go quickly through a couple here that I showed you last time. Well, let's see now. This is the coral top, which is a mess. I'm in the middle of a round. Well, anyway, the coral top in linen and cotton by Helga Isager. This, the stockinette and the purling especially is killing my hands, so I haven't made that much progress on this one, because I'm very close to actually joining it in the round, which means I won't have to do any purling anymore, so I'm looking forward to that. But I haven't made that much progress because those purl rounds are just ouch. So that's happening, but it's happening a bit slowly. Okay, that's that. Now my winter is coming socks. I showed you the first one last time, and the second one has only progressed this far. I have several colorworks projects going on, and this one I think is the one that requires the most attention. So I haven't really gotten very far, but they're happening slowly but surely. So those are the Winter is Coming socks by Anna Mäkilä. Also available specs on my Ravelry page. Oops, sorry about that. Throwing things on the floor, just like that. And then I have the silver lining. And now that is actually pretty close to being finished. I have knitted all the parts. The sleeves are finished. I have cut open the steek. I have some footage of that, which I will show you next time about making the steek. I'm thinking about making a slightly different steek or a different sort of batten band. So that will be interesting, but I will be getting onto that in the near future, and then I can show you the finished project a bit later. But that's all good. Quite happy with that so far. Silver Lining by Jennifer Steingas. Yeah. And then I have this whole pile of other stuff that I have been starting. Where do we start? This is the April sock in Kia's Wood podcast challenge Free Socks 2020. And these are the Ruusujuuri socks by the Finnish designer, yay, Finnish designer, again, Tiina Koo. And a really lovely pattern. It has a different heel construction. I haven't gotten that far yet. And it's an all-over colorwork sock. So I've knit this far once before, and then I realized I had an extra row. I hadn't been reading the chart properly, and so I had sort of too much space in between these little leaves here, so I had to think it back. Not that it didn't look fine, but especially when you're making two pieces, it's a bit of a hassle if you want to try and duplicate your errors, or if so. I felt it's easier to just rip back and redo it. So this is also, this yarn is the same yarn as in the shawl, the Tough Love sock, Sweet Georgia Tough Love sock in the colorway Biscuit, which is this kind of straw color. I think it's really lovely, and here you really see that very nice variegation of the yarn. And I have combined, and this is the yarn, and it's combined with Drops Nord in this off-white colorway 01, and these really go very well together. It makes the color work becomes so even and nice, and a really sort of quite dense. I'm using 2.25 needles, quite dense fabric, but still very soft and very sort of squishy. So I'm really enjoying this, even though I haven't made that much progress because I'm doing all these other things at the same time. but a really nice and enjoyable project and a really nice pattern. So yeah. Did I forget anything about that? Nah. And then I have another sock pattern or sock project where I have finished one and the other one is very close to being finished actually. I haven't blocked this, but I put it up because it has this sort of very stretchy eyelet pattern, so it needs to be stretched out for you to see it. This is the Ambient socks from the Handmade Sock Society 3 by Helen Stewart, Curious Handmade. So this is the second installment of that series, and yeah, a lovely pattern again. Really fun to knit, really easy, but still has these sort of nice details that I really like. Now on here you see this is sort of a yeah, just eyelets and increases and decreases, and then on the back is also sort of, or along the back of the cuff is a it's a knit and purl stitches, but they're sort of grouped a little differently, so it's not like a real a regular rib. It's a little bit, yeah, just becomes more decorative. And I have made the Fish Lips Kiss heel rather than the heel flap that was actually in the pattern, because I prefer these for the fit. But I've made kind of a bit of a special solution here, in that I've actually knit one part, or the top part of the heel I've knit in stockinette, rather than continuing in this pattern all the way to the heel. This is actually how the Fish Lips Kiss heel is. It's what she recommends in the pattern. I don't always do it that way, but I think here it actually it makes the heel just a little higher, because this is only 56 stitches. Because this is so stretchy, even though I'm using a finger weight yarn, I'm only using 56 stitches. It makes for a very snug sock, and I think this should be a snug sock as well. So that's why I've made these kind of extra precautions for the heel. And the yarn that I'm using here is Louhittaren Luola Knit Lobs Layer, a Finnish indie dyer, one of the indie dyers that have been around for the longest, or Finnish indie dyers at least that have been around for the longest. She's also a designer, and she has lots and lots of lovely colorways and yarn qualities in her shop. And this is the colorway Strömsö. And I also bought this at the fair in Tampere last year. Now, Strömsö, being a linguist, I kind of have to go into these name discussions every now and then, because I just think that's kind of fun. Strömsö is a place not far from here, on the other side of Vasa, basically. It's used to be an old manor almost, or like a villa by the water, and it is now used as a film studio, and it's it's a lifestyle television show is being filmed there. It has been on air for many years now, and it's really popular. And so this is the Strömsö colorway. And I think somehow this kind of also reflects the Strömsö image because it's about cooking, it's about gardening, it's about making stuff and crafting, building, about home improvement, all that sort of thing. And somehow, I mean, all of that is in this skein of yarn. So I think that's kind of fun, actually. I like the way. I like that she's called it strømse. And the contrasting heel and toe are from my Advent yarn swap. And I think they are limo design yarns as well. I do not know the colorway, but I think they go really well together with these springy socks. So those are my Ambient socks. And now this project, my next project, I just started this on a whim. I had no plans. You may remember the last episode I actually talked about some plans that I have. Well, forget those. They are long gone. I will never talk about plans again because I just change my mind in a split second, and then those plans are just, I can never stick to those plans when something else catches my attention. And this is what caught my attention when the pattern was released. It was released just last weekend. It's the Grerup sweater by Camilla Vad, or Camilla Bøll, I think you might say it in Danish. Sorry, any Danes, if you're watching, if I'm abusing your language. She is the designer behind the Magnolia sweater, for instance, which is very well known. And this is a new, very brand new design, an all over colorwork pullover, pretty basic sort of boxy, pullover. This is now, I have reached the top, the sort of the sleeve or the armhole, and I have started also on one sleeve. So these, I will knit these, and then they will be joined at this point, and then the color work will continue until right at the end, or at the top here. There is just some texture. It's a solid color and some texture before it finishing with a round neckline. And this was just such fun. I just started it and I couldn't stop. And I am using only stash yarns, deep stash, any stash, whatever stash I can find that I think will go color-wise together. I've put into this one. And the brown, or the sort of reddish brown that here at the bottom, that's Novita Nalle from my plant dyeing collection. So this is a yarn that was a gray base, and I dyed it, so it's now this dark brown. And on top here is the original Novita Nalle. So that's a superwash yarn. Now here is some Host Super Soft. Actually, both this one and this contrast cross here is Host Super Soft. Oh no, the other one is Host Tides. Yeah, and they are held double. And this sort of dusty pink here in between, that's a locally produced and spinned milled yarn from Koskemill, which I have also mentioned at some point before. And that's just, the yarn qualities are very different. This is a much sort of softer and kind of loosely spun, sort of a bit, flurry, fluffy. I don't know how to describe it, but it was difficult to knit on wooden needles, which I am using here, and with these other yarns that were completely different in texture. So So that, even though it produces a lovely fabric, but it was really difficult to knit. Yeah, but so this is like experimenting with yarn qualities and just putting the stuff together and just making a loungeabout sweater. But really fun and really enjoyable knit. Now the pattern, if I'm gonna say something about the pattern, it's a paid for pattern on Ravelry. It has charts, doesn't have a schematic of the sort of, but it does have measurements, so you can, that's not a problem as such. But what I do find is perhaps missing or could have been added to the pattern is that it doesn't have, for instance, on the sleeves where you are increasing stitches at regular intervals, it doesn't really say how to adapt the pattern, the color changes, and the color and the sort of how you do where do you place those stitches, and how do you adapt the color work around it. You have to kind of figure that out for yourself. And well, I consider myself experienced enough to be able to do that. But somehow I think that if you buy a paid pattern, you actually pay money for it. You kind of would want somebody to do that thinking for you. Yeah, that's just kind of how it's a different thing if it's a free pattern or if it's perhaps a pattern in a magazine where there are lots and lots of patterns. But if you pay money for just one pattern and it doesn't tell you how to go about with the color work, which is such an integral part of this pattern, I kind of just would have liked to have that little bit more detail and explanation in the pattern. But on the other hand, I think this is kind of the tradition in the Scandinavian countries. I mean, when I was growing up, and this is what you do in any knitting pattern. There were never any details about how to deal with these sort of things. It's you were just expected to figure it out. And I find that in some Scandinavian patterns or designs today, that still is kind of how you approach that problem. Whereas in many other cultures or from other countries, you are very detailed and very sort of just very explicit about how to approach it. And somehow I think that if you pay for it, that's what you should get. But those are just my 2 cents. The pattern is still very, very enjoyable. And since I'm just using stash, I mean the colors that I put together, I have just kind of, I haven't had the luxury of making them all sort of color coordinated and toned, perfectly. I'm just hoping that, yeah, I'm just not being very particular about having the perfect colors in this one. I just want to get rid of some of my stash and make something out of it at the same time. So yeah, well, I think that was actually all of my projects for the moment. But I have made some acquisitions, and I will just end by showing you some of that. Now, a few weeks ago, I think, 2 weeks ago, there was a thing called Kassamessut netissä here in Finland, which means craft fair online. And that kind of was to put together, because all the craft shows and all the yarn festivals and everything, of course, is cancelled, and that means that for a lot of these small enterprises, they don't have an outlet for their yarns. And so an online crafts fair was put together, where you could browse through a lot of crafty net or web shops, and they had some special offers and things like that. And I thought that I would support some local, or not necessarily local, but local to Finland, a small business owner. And I chose actually just to buy from one place this time, and I made an order from the Kera yarn shop, which is right in the south of Finland. And I have seen her yarns live at the Neulovasa event, but she didn't have these hand-dyed yarns in her web shop until this weekend. So I thought, well, now I'm gonna buy some of her hand-dyed stuff. So I bought 3 skeins of hand-dyed yarn, and all of her yarns are kind of have these very, very natural. She says that she's inspired by the sea and the archipelago where she lives, and they all have. This one is called Wednesday. It has these mauve and dusty pink tones to it. And then there is one that's called Fix You, which has just a little bit of, which is more gray, but has some brown and burnt orange kind of colors. And then I think this is my favorite. This one is called Heyday, and it is just such a beautiful muted orange with some darker effects. And these are all merino, 75% merino, 25% nylon. So probably some socks coming up from these beauties. And then I also ordered some Rauma garn from her, because I think maybe one of the only places in Finland that actually sells Rauma. And I don't have a plan for these yet, but I wanted, because I like the Rauma so much, I wanted to stock up a bit. And so I bought a few different colorways of the phenol. This pink one is the color 4094, and this one is the colorway 404 gray, and then a couple of teal balls, which is the colorways 484. This is actually a bit more green than it looks on the screen, to my eyes anyway. And then I also bought some of the Gammel-serie, which is plied a bit differently, a tighter ply. And these are in the colorway 4805. So, happy owner of some new Rauma yarn. Now, this Easter that we are in the middle of right now, our family actually had some very different plans before all this coronavirus started happening. We were planning to go on a train holiday and going on Interrail through Europe. And unfortunately, we are not on a train anywhere today. But today we would have been arriving in Krakow, Poland, and tomorrow we were planning on visiting Auschwitz and the memorial of the concentration camp. So, but we will do that some other time. It will still be there. And then from there we were planning on heading to Italy, where I'm sure nobody wants to go at this moment. So yeah, and so my husband is on holiday because he had taken out his remaining holiday for this trip. But yeah, that's life. There are more important things now to see to than traveling. But in that spirit, I thought I would just share a couple of tips for traveling from home, since we can't travel in real life, but there are plenty of YouTube channels or other sort of places where you can travel virtually. Well, digitally, I don't know. And one of the things I just wanted to mention is Shetland. I showed you my Shetland tea shawl a few episodes back, and I got some feedback on that from Shetland, which was wonderful. And this lady in Shetland, her Instagram is called Barkland Craft. I will put the Instagram up here, and then I will link to her YouTube channel below. She lives on Fair Isle, the island with Fair Isle knitting, where that originates from, I suppose. And she has made a series of videos where she explores her island and shows some of the sights and the landscape there. So you go and check her out if you want to travel to Shetland. And then there is also another Shetland lady, Jeanette Budge, who has just started a knitting podcast. She's a knitting tutor or teacher in Fair Isle knitting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her stuff. But you can go and check her out as well. And then finally, I would just like to give a shout out to a couple of girls from just around here. They are from around Vasa as well, who were given the job of traveling in a camper van for a year. Their plan was to travel through Europe, of course, and film. And that would be kind of the advertising for the camper van, but also a bit of sort of traveling vlog, I suppose. And they are called, oh dear, do I now remember what they are called? I will have to put it up here because now it just eludes me completely. But you can go, and they have put up, I think, about 4 or 5 episodes of their travel so far. Well, what happened was that they were able to travel to Norway, to Lofoten in northern Norway, and then they traveled down through Sweden, and then Corona happened, and they had to go back to Finland and be in quarantine for 14 days. So they sat on a campsite in Lapland for 14 days before they could actually come back here to be reunited with their families. And I think they will continue living in the camper van and just wait for perhaps the situation to change, and maybe they will be able to travel again. But they are professionals. This is not your everyday DIY travel diary. They are both trained in photography and film. So this is really beautiful footage, and really nicely edited, and really very nice to look at. So if you want to follow along with some Finnish girls on an adventure, you can go over and have a look at their YouTube channel. Okay, I think that's it for today. Have a lovely Easter, those of you who are celebrating. Enjoy the sunshine whenever you can. Enjoy your knitting. Enjoy your time off, if you have time off, and just have some chocolate. See you next time. Bye.